All right, guys. Hey, welcome to the Sky's the Limit call. My name is Stephen Yee. I'm excited to be able to have two of my good friends, Jonathan Avila and Benny Chant, on with us. The cool part about this too is I've been able to watch their growth over the last few years in the insurance industry, and it's been a fun one. And recently, these two have adopted a new lead type into their portfolio, and they've added another spoke of the wheel, which is IULs, into their weekly sales. It's increased their profitability. I believe John has written two cases that were 12,000 AP a piece. Benny has written one as well. And they write crazy cases on those all day long too. So, John, Benny, you with us? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we hear you.
Thanks for having me, brother.
Absolutely. So, John, for those that don't know and don't really know who you are, although they probably should, can you kind of give them your quick 2 minute background of how you ended up here and what you did before?
Yeah, for sure. So I was at a place in my life a few years ago where I was just trying to figure out what my next move was. I was living at home with my parents, and I said I need to make something happen. I couldn't go get a job, but I wanted to be compensated for my time and effort. And I had a good friend Pablo that said, "Hey, why don't you try life insurance?" And that was November 6th of 2020. Got licensed and sold my first policy in December 19th of 2020.
Sweet, dude.
Wild
What
ride ever
about
since.
there you go. And here's the cool part is like you've dominated running internet leads. You've ran mortgage protection leads, kind of got rid of that. Now you specialize heavily in final expense leads, right? So you've kind of done it all. What about you, Benny? Your quick 2 to 3 minute.
Yeah, so I started in the insurance industry back in June 2021. I was introduced by David Chen, who's also on SkyPoint with us here, and been doing it for a couple of years now. Started mainly face to face, helped about 29 families in the field, and then ever since then I shifted to 100% just doing it virtual. Helped about 37 families, was my best month so far.
Love it.
And yeah, I do a variety of leads, mainly mortgage protection. I'm doing some final expense as well.
Love it. And see, for those of you that are on the call, like the nice part is you can run whatever lead type you want, right? Like you can run final expense, you can run internet leads, you can run mortgage protection. There's no right or wrong answer. You just got to understand how those leads work. But today we're going to be talking about the IUL leads. And John, if you can kind of dive in, like what all of a sudden made you want to like tinker and play with IUL leads? Because you were on a roll with final expense this year, right? Like you've been crushing FX. So what kind of like got you looking into IULs and all that stuff?
Yeah, so I've been so if we can rewind back in early this year, I started going more telesales, and I wanted something to replace my mortgage protection. So I just started running nothing but Facebook final expense, and I'll just do a one call close. And I've been doing that steadily for the past 11 months. And I decided, I asked myself, like, I would like a more of a higher premium type of client that can afford bigger premiums versus my typical final expense, 50, 60, 70, $80. Wanted, and I'm trying to focus on building my team. And so I wanted something that I could still write a lot of premium and still sell at a high level, but maybe not, quote unquote, pound the phones. Final expense, I'm doing $300-400 a day at least. And, with these IUL leads, there's a little bit higher intent, and they're able to pay a little bit, obviously a higher premium per month. So that's kind of what prompted me to.
What about you, Benny?
I mean, it was just basically towards the end of the, where we're closing up towards the end of Q4, and throughout the whole year, I just been thinking about like how can I continue to like push that ceiling, get better, improve. And so I actually had a conversation with John about this, about what's next, right? How do we really unlock our full insurance license? Because yeah, we're helping families daily, whether it's mortgage protection, final expense. but how do we really, like, you know, like everyone says, unlock that full potential of your insurance license? And that's what kind of got me interested into looking into, you know, not just IULs, but, you know, even annuities, right? Right now I got maybe like 4 cases with the AMS team that they're helping me out with potentially.
Love it. Love it. And see, that's the cool part, right? Is you know, in the simplified issue space, the persistency, you know, nationwide with Family First Life and even with most IMOs is right around 70%. Okay. With IULs, it's like 91, 92%. So what's crazy is number one, you get more premium. Client usually pays more on an IUL than a traditional simplified issue policy. That's usually the case. Number two, they get more insurance. And then number three, the policy stays on the books longer. It's a win for all three. It's a win for the client, it's a win for the carrier, it's a win for the agent. You know what I mean? And so it's been really cool watching you two implement this. And I know you guys have played around with a bunch of different leads too to have your IUL leads. Benny, I wanted to kind of dive into like IULs can be such a complex sale. And it really could be. Like if we wanted to make it really, really hard and confuse a client, it's very easy to. Especially we start talking about index strategies, crediting, participation rates, 10-year lookbacks, 25-year lookbacks. They're like, what? Right? How do you simplify that process for the client when you actually sell IULs?
I mean, as far as simplifying the process, you know, that's exactly what I really focus on for the entire conversation. It's really just more of a conversation with the client at that point when we're going over the IUL. And I basically walk them through the illustration, right? Like page by page, you know, whatever questions they have. There might be some, you know, policy highlights that I want to share with them. And, you know, it's just really open dialogue at that point, you know. It's really nothing special.
What about you, John? How do you keep it simple for such a complex product type of sale?
Great question. So, I in the beginning I used to dive into a lot of all of that, and you know, I talk about participation rates and overfunding and underfunding and what that looks like, and increasing and level death benefit, and I just keep it really simple. I just, you know, educate them on what an index fund is and what that looks like, how they're participating in the gains. What that means is they're not getting all the upside, but they're not getting any downside risk. And you know, more the conversation is more so: are they concerned about the insurance? Are you concerned about your leaving your family a legacy behind, or are you looking to just, you know, compound your money? And you know, that kind of tells me where I'm going to head and how I'm going to structure the policy based on, you know, what they answer.
So let's say I'm an IUL lead, right? You call me, we have an appointment, whatever it may be. How do you start that conversation with people?
Yeah. So for me, I used to get, like, right away, I would get a resistance with credibility, and with final expense, I wasn't getting that like right away. And so even before the conversation begins, I'm sending them my license, and I'm making sure that they open that up and see it, because a lot of people think these, like, you know, IULs are whole life, the become your own bank policy is like a scam. And so I'm sending them my license right away, walking them through that process, and just explaining, you know, what my, you know, what's the phrase role and purpose. And you know, is I'm getting to the meat and potatoes by asking, is this the first time that you're looking? Okay, what do you know about it? Like, what do you think you know about it? Well, I'm looking to become my own bank, or I'm looking to, you know, create generational wealth. And then I'll dive in, you know, based off what they say. And then I'll just say, hey, I'm a licensed underwriter. We have 39 carriers that participate with us. Just going to run through some health and medical questions, income and budget questions, same, setting the frame, same stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're just going to show some few options, and then, you know, we can apply if you want. Same process.
I love that, dude. What about you, Benny? How do you like, if I was on the other side of the phone and, you know, I answer their call, like how do you open up your IUL appointment?
I mean, it's kind of like I don't really have a script for the IULs, but I do have like kind of like what John said, like a checklist, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you build the credibility, which is super huge in the beginning, because I'm really just trying to figure out, like, is this someone that I can actually have a conversation with, like, does it really make sense? Are they serious? Is there intent? And does it even make sense for them? If not, then I'm moving on to the next call at that point. So I have a checklist where I'm going through credibility in the beginning, get that out of the way so that way they know that I'm here to help them, right? And what the request was specifically for. Like John said, go over the inventory of what their income looks like. Make sure they actually have discretionary income so it makes sense for them. I'm asking very, very simple questions I actually picked up from the SRS team. Do they have a retirement? What does that look like? Is it enough? It really doesn't matter what they say. Sometimes they may say, it is enough. What if I can show you a way that you can potentially have a little bit more tax-free retirement income? Is that something you're interested in? They may say yes, whatever, right? It's just very, very open dialogue at that point where I'm really focused on a lot of probing questions and just talking to that person on the other side of the phone or Zoom, right? One thing that I will say though, that as far as John mentioned, it's really understanding some of these people. They care more about the death benefit. They want to leave some type of legacy behind. So it may just end up being some type of like easy solve or smart solve type of product. So it's really understanding what they want. It's not, what we think they need. It's really what they want, and understanding where they're coming from.
I love it. See, because what are the things that I got from you guys is you guys are just having conversations, right? When I sold a lot of IULs, I was very, very big on the educational piece. Like, it wasn't like a mortgage protection appointment where I'm diving into, well, maybe it looks, maybe, where I'm diving into like who owns the house, like is the house in a trust, who's on the deed or whatever, right? Like on an IUL appointment, it's a lot of education, like me going, all right, man, I know you want an IUL. What made you want to get an IUL? Did you see something on Instagram or Facebook? Because there's so many of these videos right now of these, quote unquote influencers that are talking about cash value life insurance, and they're buying their car and they're buying their home with life insurance, right? And I'm like, I'm trying to get to understand, like, is that the reason why you were interested in one? Or is it because someone told you you had to get one? There's a lot of our competitors in the insurance space that they only sell IULs. They don't sell anything else. And sometimes the IUL might not be the best fit for them. You know what I mean? And so a lot of it is educational for me, like me asking questions like, what made you think you want to get an IUL? Oh, it's because of this. Okay. Are you trying to fund something? Right? My whole concept of IULs is you're always trying to fund something. You're funding a retirement program, tax-free retirement program. You're funding a college education for your kids that are very, very young. You're funding a down payment for a home or a car or whatever it may be. You're funding usually something. You're trying to grow the cash. And I'm trying to find those things out. But the cool part about it is once you, so like, this is the reason why I wanted to dive into this too. The reason why IUL premiums are higher usually than a traditional life policy is because if you understand how to hit multiple things for them, they will spend more money. It's
Mhm.
just not their life insurance. It's their life insurance plus their tax-free retirement plus,
Yep.
something else for, right? Like it might be their bank. Like, so therefore they go, oh, I'm not just going to spend $100 a month. I'll spend 3, 4, 5. I'll spend 1,000, 2,000, whatever it may be. That's how you get the bigger premium, is when you ask a lot of questions. I mean, for those of you that have seen the boot camp, you have always heard me say, ask better questions, get better answers, right? And so some people, like Benny said, hey, I don't need a tax-free retirement because I got a really good one, right? Janelle recently wrote a case that I helped her with. Client had a imploding UL. We put them in a GUL that was going to guarantee a DB, but they wanted a specific amount. We said, hey, it's going to cost you this, and they're like, cool, we're in, right? But that's where a lot of educational conversations with your client will assist you in getting bigger premiums. And I guarantee you those policies don't fall off, like almost ever, right? John, what is something that you do in the IUL phase? Because you've written 2 policies for $1,000 a month premium. Most people don't do that their whole career. You did
Yeah.
it in like a week and a half.
I think the thing is understanding that in IUL, a lot of people see the benefits for themselves. It's not just for someone else. that they'll never reap the benefit.
That's
And
so good.
so, you're triggering something else in them, of compound interest and growing their money. And I feel like a lot of the clients feel like they're like, I don't know how to, like, there's a loophole in the system that they're somehow able to leverage. And so, instead of just quoting them random stuff, I say, well, how much are you able to put into something like this, or how much are you able to set aside? And I want to put as much as I can. And then, okay, well, this is what it looks like if we do 500. This is what it looks like if we do 1,000. And based on if they're looking for life insurance, or they're just looking for that compound interest, that it's then it looks at how I structure the policy.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, because the cool part is too, like I learned this from basically our SRS department, right? And it's a simple question that they ask, and I'd write this down for those of you that are taking notes. Hey man, are you a spender or a saver? Right? Because if someone's a spender, hey bro, we need you to put a few $100 aside because you spent all you got. So you need a plan for your retirement. Right? If they go, I'm a saver, cool. How much are you saving? That's your premium. Either way, that question gets your premium. Right? So for those of you brand new agents out there, write that down. What about you, Benny? Like you wrote a case for 12,000 AP, $1,000 a month. Like, how did you get that? Like, how was that process like?
I mean, as far as like identifying what that premium is going to look like, it's having that conversation, showing them, multiple different illustrations, going through it page by page, answering their questions, letting them see what the potential is going to look like. And I just basically keep asking them until they tell me that they're good with that one and they just want to send an application and see if they're going to get approved, right? So they could say, hey, well, let's take a look what 350 looks like. Let's take a look at 500 or, 1,000. And then they may say, hey, you know what? Yeah, I don't like the 1,000. Let's look at 350 and let's submit an application for that. I'm like, okay, cool, let's do it.
Right. Very nonchalant. You've recently added the Ethos IUL product into your tool belt, because I remember you were talking to me going, hey man, I can't sell it because I live in California or whatever it is. And luckily Nick was able to assist us with that. How huge has that been for your business?
Yeah, it's been huge. The Ethos IUL product, with the ability to be able to do just about anything, from the SmartSolve, right, product to maximize the cash value, retirement income, and it's just super easy, super quick. And there's a lot of things that I feel like for the underwriting for that product that they're a pretty lenient on for the most part, but you get that instant decision. I mean, there's only been like one or two cases that I've seen on my end that needed like additional underwriting.
Right. How many cases do you feel like you write a month with that product?
Uh, Shoot. I mean, I, I can probably write about maybe 10 plus.
Cases with them?
Yeah. Yeah, with Ethos IUL for sure. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. What about you, John? What do you use heavily for your IULs?
Yeah, I've been. I'll start with Ethos if I can get them approved with that. If not, I will either try Mutual Omaha or NLG.
Got it.
I mean, but with Ethos is great. There's a bunch of different um, ratings, and I've got a lot of people approved that like substandard that would probably just get declined from other IUL carriers. So that's always, and the instant decision is huge.
Dude, the instant decision, massive. Like I remember Benny and I were at a lock-in, and I wrote an NLG case, and he was like, dude, you're gonna want to shoot yourself. And I'm like, why? He goes, the paperwork's like 40 minutes. And I was like, is it really? And I'm literally going through the app and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is brutal. And you know what? Ethos is like 10, 15 minutes, maybe instant
Yeah.
decision. And NLG, it's like they do what we call accelerated underwriting, meaning they can give you an instant decision, but they also reserve the right to make your client, I should say, draw blood and pee a cup, right?
Yeah.
Do an APS or whatever it is. So, I'm a big fan of speed, because it definitely assists in the process and the client's happy. Benny, by the way, that client is still not approved.
Oh
Um,
wow.
yeah. because they're doing an APS. And I'm like, and that's why I'm a big fan of Ethos, because like you guys are saying, I can sit down with, or not sit down, I can talk to a client today, get them insured, give them a policy number. They have it and they know they're insured compared to waiting 3 to 4 to 5 weeks. You know what I mean? So that's a big, big, big plus. And the other thing too is being able to get to $1 million in death benefit without drawing blood that's a big win. Anything that you guys talk about on the IULs, John, that I might have missed or whatever it may be?
Establishing credibility, then setting the expectation. Then once we dive in, I'm just explaining the process of what an IU, how it works, and you can borrow against it. I typically recommend my clients, hey, wait a few years if you do plan on borrowing against it. I'll talk to them about guarantees and non-guarantees and how that works. And basically,
Freeze. Let's talk about that, because a brand new agent, that's going to trip them up in the sale. If you show that illustration to a client, they're definitely going to ask you, hey, what does this mean? How do you explain that?
Yeah, so and I'll explain it to, for instance, Mutual Omaha's illustrated rate is 5.9%. I said, hey, the reason why it says non-guaranteed is because we cannot predict the future of what the market will perform at. But that 5.9%, what that number represents is the historical average of the past 20 years. So then I'll scroll up to the page. There's with the IULE, it shows you the historical performance. Like, okay, yeah, 2022 was bad, 2021 was good, and that's what it actually did. I said that, but the cool thing is you never lose money in an index fund.
Right.
Like, okay.
All right. And see, that's the cool part is like, I always, when you talk about historical data, and this is for those of you that are new, if they go, why is it a non-guarantee versus a guarantee? And I go, hey, let's say like you said, right, 5.9% or whatever it is. I go, what's cool is in the last 20 years, we've gone through like 3 recessions and depressions, and it's still performed at this.
Right.
And like, I hope the next 20 years doesn't suck as bad as these past 20 years did. But if it did, you still get 5.9. And it can be better, but we're going to say this is what happened in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
And they go, well, what does it mean for the guarantee? And I'm like, all right, so I'm going to explain to you what the guarantee means. The guarantee means if the market and the economy went to crap for the next 20 years, this is what you're guaranteed. However, if that really happened, Bob and Mary, the last thing you should be worried about is your life insurance policy, because the world's basically ending.
I say something similar to that effect. Like, yeah, we're going to be on buggies and horse carriages if that happens.
What about you, Benny? What other stuff do you hit on the IUL?
Yeah,
that I might have missed?
So one thing, after we establish credibility and we identify what the call's about, the specific need, what they're looking for, how they're looking to utilize this vehicle, I really condense my like the health assessment part, but I try to be very direct and transparent, because I feel like with final expense, my experience, and even with mortgage protection, I get the ones where you'll submit an app and then you find out later on that they're taking a medication that they didn't disclose, right? That they were prescribed. Oh, well, I just never took it, right? So I'm very direct. That's another part for me to figure out if I'm going to continue the conversation or not. Because in the health questions, if it doesn't add up, I may pivot to another product, right, that they could potentially qualify for, so they get something better than nothing. Or I'm just like, that's it, the call's done, right? But I let them know, as far as the health assessment, that some of these carriers, whichever carrier they qualify for, potentially qualifies for, as far as what they're looking to do, it may take anywhere between 3, maybe 4 weeks, sometimes a little bit sooner, to where they're going to give us some type of underwriting feedback, right? They're either going to tell us, number one, you're approved. Number two, they need a little bit more information or clarity regarding some type of health condition or past medication. Or number three, you're declined, right? But sometimes if we get lucky, we might even be able to get some type of decision as soon as today, in rare instances, right? So whatever the situation is, whether it's something minor, mild, we need to know, and we need to disclose it to the carrier, because if they're going to take that long to underwrite, they're probably going to find out, and we don't want to be in a situation where they say, hey, 2-3 weeks later, they're knocking on our door saying, "Hey, Bob, Mary, did you know Bob and Mary both had a stroke 2 years ago, right? And they're taking blood thinners and they had stents. I don't want to come back to you and then you're upset at me, right? Saying that, oh, well, I didn't know we had to share this, and then they're going to think that we're trying to deceive them and try to hide some information from them. And then at that point, they're usually like, you know what? Yeah, that makes sense. I'll share it. Because I say, hey, this isn't going to be an auto decline. It might just be a situation where it's either going to be a different product or they're going to give you a different underwriting class. So then they kind of feel a little bit better about that, right? But I want to make sure we're super crystal clear as far as health questions. There's no hiding of anything. I don't care if it's an aspirin, whatever. They got to tell me. If they're hiding something, then I might just decide to not continue and choose a different product.
Got it. I love it. Hey guys, by the way, if you have any questions, feel free to drop it in the chat or the Q&A. And we'll be able to go over those pretty quickly. But I got a few things that I want to hit on before we open it up for Q&A. Benny, what's your average premium for an IUL sale?
I'd say about maybe 200.
$200 a month is what your average client is paying. What about you, John?
I would say right around, I'd say 200 to 300 is kind of the number. And typically what I say when I'm proposing these options, if they're in their 40s, I'll say, hey, typically we recommend at least 200 because they don't know, what I said, since we're funding this to grow compound interest, the bare minimum is 200. And so they're like, okay, yeah, I could do that. I was like, we can go as high as you want, which whatever's comfortable for you, but we typically recommend this versus just how you're showing up, a 3-option close and you're doing it differently. You're recommending them as an advisor of sorts on what this looks like and how much they're going to have to contribute for it to make sense.
I love it. Because what's your traditional average final expense premium?
Like, I don't know, 800 AP, 50 to 70 bucks, 90 bucks a month.
Compared to your IULs, it's roughly around 2,500, 3,500 AP, right? And here's the reason why I say this too, is because, and we'll talk about implementation after that too, but, this is where as agents, and I challenge all you guys, especially on this call, like Benny talked about it, like the goal is we come in as brand new agents, we sell final expense mortgage protection because it's pretty simple. But like your job as an agent is to progress and get better. And so you start adding IULs, annuities, traditional life products, or whatever it is, because now you start making more money, right? Like if you guys haven't had a chance to write a single premium whole life, I challenge you to go do that. If y'all haven't had a chance to go write an annuity, an FIA, or an FIA with an income rider, like I challenge you to go do that. Why? Because it teaches you more. So your knowledge base is through the roof when you actually meet with clients, right? And so like, there's nothing out there that your client can actually say to you that you go, I actually don't know how that works, and that's the separator, right? John, Benny, like that's the separator between us here versus other people. Most agents that work in the insurance industry, part-time agents. They're a nurse, they're a teacher, they're a server at BJ's, and then they sell insurance because their friends or family recruited them to. The difference is we all sell life insurance full-time. And so if we sell insurance full-time, we should be a professional and act like it. We should understand, even if we haven't wrote those products, we should understand how they work, right? Like that's all I'm trying to say. So that's cool about the monthly premium because, when I go into a house, and this is just me, speaker boxing. When I go into a house and I see an IUL funded for less than 200 bucks, I kill it immediately. Like I will destroy that agent. I don't even care if it's a family member. If it's a family member that I know for sure is a part-time agent, I destroy it even more. Because I go, they don't know what they're doing. They're hurting you indirectly. They don't have the intention to, but they're not a professional. I am. And if you think about it, it's in an IUL, the cost of insurance will go up. The pool works in your premium, the $200-300 that you pay clients. A little bit of that goes to the cost of insurance. The rest of it goes to cash value. So like if you're 47 years old and you pay $87 a month for an IUL, $60 of that is probably your cost of insurance. Like there is nothing for you to invest. It ain't even real for you. you know? And then that's the reason why I'm saying we have to be educational. We have to ask questions, because if they go, I want an IUL, but I want to pay $40 a month for it, I'm like, it don't work that way, you know? John, you've been really good at getting referrals too. In IUL sales, you get a lot of referrals because the product is legit,
Yeah,
right? And so you'll have a lot of people go, yo, man, can you do this for so and so and so and so and so and so? It happens way more in IUL sales than mortgage protection final expense. Tell me if I'm wrong.
absolutely. There's a certain, with the IULs, there's a certain sense of like a buy-in that they're doing something that's going to affect their family in a positive way. I feel like even more so than just life insurance. Like there's, like I said, there's like a hack or a loophole that they're doing, and they want their whole family in on it. So I just helped a guy on Friday. He's like, my whole family's getting this, and so I'm gonna follow up with him and his siblings. So, and I don't even ask for it, and I'm bad at that. And so
We all are.
I'm just happy I got something. And but yeah, I've been closing it with saying, hey, if you think there's anyone else that would benefit from something like this, if you can just give me their phone number and I can, call them and see if I can help them.
Right. I love that. Because that one case that you wrote for like 12,000,
Mm-hmm.
did you write like the daughter and the sister or some crazy?
Yeah, yeah. The it was the person that called me was the $1,000 a month premium, and then I wrote a $300 max funded IUL with Mutual, and then I just did I did a final expense product on the mom.
So,
And
so
then
one client, one lead, I should say one lead, you got, what is that, like 18,000 in
yeah,
premium?
it was like roughly like 19.5 after it was all like said and done.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
So, that's why I'm saying y'all should add some IULs into your weekly sales. You know what's, and I'll end with this before I'll let you guys dive into the Q&As and whatever else too. I was sitting in a IUL training a long time ago, and the guy was, at a carrier, and he was like, he goes, you want to know what a real, true mortgage protection product is? And I was like, what? He's like, an IUL. And I'm like, explain it to me. He goes, well, the cost of insurance is going to be lower. So the cash value is going to be higher, right? They can get more insurance, so it's going to be able to cover more of the home. So that's part one. Part two, if you surrender your simplified issue product before the last like 2 to 3 years, you don't get any money. So like if I had an Americo CBO policy and I have a 25-year policy and I paid into it for 13 years and I cancel, y'all know I get nothing, right? Okay, cool. Like just making sure. You only get something in year 23, 24, and 25 when you get it all back. So if I cancel midway, there's nothing to get. And I'm pretty sure if you guys have sold CBO before, your clients have asked, hey man, what if I cancel midway? Sorry, right? Because that's just the way the product is done. Guess what? An IUL, if they cancel midway, they get some back. Matter of fact, if you wanted a true mortgage payoff product, the cash value in an IUL can pay off the home, not just in year 25. You can pay it off in 21, 22, 19, however you want to design it. You talk about a true mortgage protection product. An IUL is it. It's pretty neat. So, and then they can take the last fact. They can take the cash value out, they can loan it against themselves, pay off the house, and still have the insurance. In CBO, when they cut you a check, you pay off the house, you ain't got nada,
Correct.
nothing else. So for those of you that are selling mortgage protection, wouldn't be a bad idea to add that into your weekly sales. That's how you pitch it. So, John, you're smiling like ear to ear. Did I say something wrong?
That's my line all the time. So that's why you've known me for selling a lot of the IULE product. That's kind of the statements that I make when I'm talking to families.
Absolutely. So, Benny, how does the agents on these calls add this to their weekly sales? How do they implement it now? Now that they've heard you guys do it, you said you can write like 10 cases a month.
The easiest way to implement it, I think everyone can do it. I mean, whether it's final expense or mortgage protection, I think that the two things that I would say is well, the first one is basically just run the play, right? The financial inventory. You got to get what the income looks like, understand if there's discretionary income, right? Make sure they're even qualified for it, and then have a conversation with the client and figure out how you can reallocate some funds to another product in addition to what they currently have to set up retirement or whatever they're looking to do. That's just one way, having that conversation. Because for me personally, I just wasn't having those conversations, and there was times where I was literally just skipping over the income, right? And then number two is, implement the Easy Solve, Smart Solve products that we have as that mortgage protection alternative, right? That would be the two things that they can easily do, but it starts there.
Right. What about you, John? How would they be able to implement it into their weekly sales now to get better premium, higher persistency, better product for their client? How do they do that?
I think just by asking how much do you save every month and how much interest is that money growing. When you ask that question, I mean, obviously, if you look at the bankrate.com, I think what the average interest rate is 0.07% or something.
That's high.
If they're lucky, if they're lucky, right, on a high yield savings account. So if you ask them, you may propose it that way, and because for whatever reason, people don't view this as like another bill. They view it as like this is something that's going to benefit them. It's going to benefit their family. So the conversation is totally different versus if you feel like you're fighting with your clients, like, oh, I can only afford $50 a month. It's a totally different mindset that the clients have when they feel like it's benefiting them and they're actually saving money. They're not paying a premium, they're saving money.
They feel like they're investing it.
Yes.
Because they're going to use it later. And that line that you said was so good earlier. And I don't know if the guys on the call caught it, like if you didn't write it down. An IUL or a cash value life insurance is a policy is for them to use. Most people buy term, buy whatever, buy CBO, buy any product final expense because when they die, their family gets a check to pay off the house, replace their income, pay for funeral and burial expenses, right? With a cash value life insurance policy, they can use it to borrow the money to buy a house, buy a car, tax-free retirement plan, whatever it may be. So they don't go, dude, this isn't for my spouse. This is for me. And they get something at the end, but this is initially for me, and they'll spend more money for that because that's absolutely true. That's good. That's really good. My answer would be just go buy some leads and add them into your weekly dials because there's no other way to learn besides than by doing. There isn't. And you're going to botch it in the beginning. It's okay. Just like every other lead you ran, you sucked. Like my first mortgage protection appointment, I sucked. My first final expense appointment, I sucked. But guess what? I don't suck no more, right? It's the same thing. It's a new thing, but you're going to continuously grow as a professional, and it's going to actually be better for your client. And here's what I want you guys to understand, and I'll leave with this since it doesn't seem like anybody has a question. The better you become as an agent, the more knowledgeable you get. I always took the angle of if I sat down with Mary and I sold her this product and I came in after myself, how would I kill it? How would I beat my own policy? Right? And if you can't answer that question because you don't know enough, then you need to know. You need to learn. You know what I mean? Like one of the things that we say is we're in sales. And when you're in sales, you got to be able to sell on all sides of the front. You got to be able to sell why IULs are good, why IULs are bad. You got to sell why term is good, why term is bad. Because those companies out there that just buy term and invest the difference, there is a place for those people, but not everybody should. There's companies that sell IULs to everybody and their moms, right? There is a place for that, but not everybody should. If you're the professional that understands all the angles, you can beat any client. For example, you have a client that is 67 years old that had a heart attack last month. That fool can't get no term. He can't buy term and invest the difference. So what? Whole life insurance is a waste of money? Or the person that is an IUL candidate, right? What if the retirement plan is already set up? What if they already have a whole life policy already effective? They don't need the retirement planning. Guess what? A term might actually make sense to replace their income for 10x, 20x. It might. And those are the things that you need to understand as an agent, that you just got to be better long term. So, John, Benny, I appreciate you both. Thank you so much for hopping on this call and sharing that with us.
Thanks for having us.
You guys are
Yep,
so
thank
simple,
you.
man. And that's what I want people to understand is like simple works. You
Yeah,
know,
I think one thing that I'm just kind of thinking about right now is, there was a quote, I forgot where I heard it from the other day, but confused buyers don't buy, right? Like they don't
yeah,
make decisions, And so, the whole thing is just make it very simple, so that way anyone can understand it, right? That's it.
yeah,
And position it like a solution.
absolutely. Because, dude, it's like, so like I remember when I watched Andrew Taylor make a sale. He sold a CVO for the first time when I had a chance to ride along with him many years ago. And he said, hey, Barry, this plan, if you don't die, they give you all your money back. Like that was
Super simple. Super simple.
his close. You know what I mean? Like, and you guys are basically saying, hey, if the market goes up, your money will go up. If it goes down, nothing will happen. Like, dude, a fourth grader could understand that. And that's the point. You want to sell that way. You don't want to go, all right, Benny, so with the S&P 500, because it's the 500 best stocks in America and the cap rate is at this right now and your participation. Stop it.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
They're going to get lost in the weeds.
Yeah.
They don't even remember. They won't remember that at all
No.
anyways.
Mitchell has a question for you both, and I'll share my answer on it. What are you guys doing for children's IULs?
NLG allows juveniles to juvenile IUL, so I typically do NLG.
Yep, same here. Yeah, I got about like maybe there's a guy he has about 4 kids. He wants to do something for the kids because we're just talking about his family and going through the inventory and starting at a younger age, right? So we're currently working on something for 4 kids.
There you go. Dude, look at how fun that is. You got to sell the parents and then you got to put 4 more policies on, right? Here's a question I have for you both with regarding to NLG's underwriting, because I don't know the answer. Does the parent have to have insurance for children's IULs, for juvenile IULs?
The one I wrote, he did have insurance. So I don't know if the answer would be, I don't know if I would have put no, what would have happened? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
So I remember writing Global Atlantic, because that was our IUL carrier way back when, Accordia. And they would not allow you to write an IUL on a child unless the parent had equal or more insurance.
Interesting.
Because it looks really bad, right? It looks like they're trying to kill their kids. Mitchell, I worked at an IUL firm for a little short period of time. Here's the argument in the insurance space about children's IULs. You can't fund a child IUL high enough for college. So if your intention is to grow $80,000 in cash for college, $20,000 a year, it's better to put it on the parents, because what happens is if you put it on the parents, you can pay more, right? The parent can pay $600, $700, $800, $1,000. Putting that on a child, they're not going to really let you do that. That's part one. Part two is if the parent dies, they get it as a DB. You see what I mean? So like that's one of the angles that a lot of people take in the IUL space, is they don't necessarily always write it on the child, especially if it's for funding tuition. They write it on themselves and they max fund it like crazy, because if they die, they have the insurance to make sure that they pay for their children's college plus whatever else. So that's the answer.
Heather made a great point there. She said it could be accidental or work insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I like
So
that.
Thomas Marasco said, what about health-wise for a client that wants to front load a policy but might have had a heart attack earlier in the year but has a lot of funds to put into a policy?
I mean, depending on the funds, then
early in the year.
annuity.
Yeah, there you go.
It's an annuity all day long, dude. Because annuity they do suitability. They don't do health underwriting. So yeah, that's your best bet. Yep. Cool. So, hey guys, I appreciate you both. Thank you so much. And we'll get this call out to everybody. But this is the fun stuff, man. Like when you get to start selling higher premium, like I get giddy when I get a a, a fun case because you got to get creative. It's not the same old stuff every day. It's like, oh, how can I help this person get this and do that? Like that's fun for me, man. So
Yeah.
um, John, Benny,
For sure.
appreciate you guys. Excited to be able to watch you guys crush it this year and next year as well. And as always, we will see you at the top. Have a great day.